$6.5 million. That's our thoughts on Andrew Norwell going to the Jaguars. Next up, NFL Network, Ian Rappaport reported that Kansas City has agreed in principle to a 3-year deal with wide receiver Sammy Watkins.
Biscuits?
Not biscuits. Sammy, well, we already talked about the biscuits. Sammy Watkins. The deal is expected to be worth $48 million with $30 million guaranteed. Sammy did well for himself, per Ian Rappaport. Now, $48 million over 3 years.
That's crazy.
This is possibly the worst contract, in my opinion, so far signed. It's arguable, but it might be the worst. Sammy Watkins to me. Now, Dylan might have a different opinion. Sammy Watkins to me, in his first season or so, showed promise. Showed promise of a receiver that could be a number one go-to guy, a guy that could stretch the field, a guy that could be a playmaker. But for me, Sammy Watkins is nothing more than a second receiver. I don't think he's a number one guy. And I don't think he'll need to be a number one guy in Kansas City.
Be a number one. No.
He won't have to be. But you're paying him in the range of great receivers. You're paying him, I believe, just as much, if not more, than Mike Evans just got paid.
He's also getting more than Allen Robinson.
He's getting more than Allen Robinson. So that's pretty crazy because everybody considered Allen Robinson to be the guy in free agency. Everybody across the board. Allen Robinson is the best receiver in free agency. Sammy Watkins gets the most money. I don't know if it's because of his profile, if it's because of his potential, what it is, but this is a guy that's been consistently injured. He's played, he's only ever played 16 games 1 year, and he was banged up in that 2014 season. That was his rookie season. He played 13 games, 8 games, and 14 games in 2015, 16, and 17. He's only had one 1,000-yard season and never had 10 touchdowns. He had 8 touchdowns last year with the Rams, the highest scoring offense in the NFL, but he was like the second or third option. He only had 593 yards. This is a season coming off 39 receptions, 593 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Not overly impressive. Those are wide receiver 2 numbers. Tyreek Hill is far and away the better player, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in to an offense like Kansas City with an offensive coach like Andy Reid, who is a pass-first guy who's probably been looking for that replacement and that number 2 guy in Kansas City since Jeremy Maclin left. So that is pretty much their replacement to Jeremy Maclin. Very similar type of receiver, in my opinion. I think it's going to work to a certain degree, but and definitely having Patrick Mahomes there will help because Sammy Watkins is another guy that if he's back and he's healthy, he can stretch the field, he can run, and Patty Mahomes can definitely throw that deep ball. So we'll see how the Kansas City offense develops from last year to this year because they are changing quarterbacks. They will change a little bit in their scheme as they do all the time with Andy Reid. But I do think that this was one of the worst contracts signed so far in free agency. I just think it's overpaying for a guy that's unproven and often injured.
I'm not gonna really disagree with you on the contract situation, but I'm just gonna give you my opinions. First off, as my new favorite Chiefs saying goes, wait until the playoffs, even in free agency. But when you look at the Watkins signing for them, you now have Patrick Mahomes as your QB, who we talked about as one of our favorite prospects of last year's quarterback class. Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. That sounds like a really, really good unit, especially for a quarterback coming into his rookie year. So I like the promise of that. Second, Sammy Watkins, I think, was, I don't want to say grossly underused, but he was not used to the potential that he had in Los Angeles. I don't think they valued him as much as other teams would have because we saw other receivers stand out throughout the course of the year. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. They made themselves bigger names in their seasons. I know Cooper Kupp was a rookie this year. But I don't think he was used as any big talent. I think more teams, given that they have a roster spot for him, are going to use him better. And Albert Wilson is gone. He's signing to the Dolphins, so that's a wide receiver spot that could be used for him. I don't like the money whatsoever. I think it's a little bit too much. But again, I think it's just maybe we wait and see on this one. We see if he has a breakout season, it'll be worth it. As stands, I'm not liking it, but I do think he went to the right team. I think they'll use him as effective as possible to where maybe he'll be like a deep threat or some combination of a really good receiver. It depends. I think this is the best overall system that he could have gone to. So I think he made the best decision and he got paid. So it's all up to the Chiefs to make it execute well. And it's Mahomes' first season, so we'll see how he does and if that affects anything. But given Andy Reid's way of calling plays and being exotic with certain play calls, it could work in Sammy's in his favor, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think it's going to be a wait-and-see approach, but I definitely think this is, like I said earlier, just too much money for a guy that is still unproven to me. So that's our thoughts on Sammy Watkins going to the Kansas City Chiefs. I just read on Twitter that Marquise Lee has re-signed with Jacksonville. So this is going from one receiver to another, and Marquise Lee is a guy that both